Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. We are live on CTV and Talk City 91.1 FM, streaming live on ctvtt.com. While we continue with the program, the Trinidad and Tobago Pride Arts Festival would take place from Friday, June 22nd through to July 29th. And here from the steering committee to tell us more, we have chairman of the TNT Pride Arts Festival, Rudolph Hanamji. I understand he's no stranger to us here on CTV. And we also have feminist, activist, and member of the Pride Parade, Terry Ann Roy. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on this morning. We have a lot of interesting things to talk about. My first question, what is the TNT Pride Arts Festival?
The TNT Pride Arts Festival is actually the 2018 version of Trinidad and Tobago Pride. For many years in this country, the LGBT community, Verna, has been celebrating itself and its contribution to Trinidad and Tobago's development. However, as you would appreciate, in times gone by, there was not enough information and acknowledgement of the LGBT community. But in today's world, we can now step out more into the light and with our allies and the entire community, really put a spotlight on all of the positive aspects about being a member of the LGBT community. So the Pride Arts Festival is a coming together of a number of interest groups and NGOs and allies. And during the period you mentioned, we will be hosting a series of workshops, exhibits, media hosts. We're really focused on getting the community active and engaging with each other and developing positive messages.
Great. So a very interesting statement. You said we can now step out into the light. What do you think is the reason for this?
Well, obviously this year we've had a interesting run. We had the Jones against the AG case, where we saw a number of LGBT persons as well as allies coming together and making themselves visible. We were visible outside of Parliament. We were visible outside of the courtroom. And this gave the members of the community motivation to decide that this year we are going to continue with the visibility and continue to basically stamp our name on this nation, which we most definitely belong to and that we should be able to.
What are your thoughts on those recent developments?
I think that they're very positive, especially for the younger members of the community. They are seeing a moment in time where they no longer have to doubt whether they belong to a community and whether, in fact, they have access to their rights, Verna, because we are all citizens of this country. Many of us pay taxes, and we expect to be able to access our human rights in the same way that any other citizen would. And that is all that we are asking for. So I think that it's a very positive moment in our history. I think Trinidad and Tobago should be proud, pun intended, to demonstrate that as a Caribbean nation, it is actually taking a step in the right direction when human rights are concerned.
So what can we expect for the Trinidad and Tobago Pride Arts Festival?
Well, we're starting with a flag raising on Friday. And then we're following that with we have parties. We have EduQueer, which is a full day of workshops and information on health. We're going to be doing testing. We're going to be doing mental health awareness. We have a King Show, we have a Pride Parade, we have movie nights, we have other workshops.
We have theatre nights where we will be hosting a series of engaging experiences looking at the history of LGBT in the theatre. The movie nights where feature films that deal with LGBT issues will be screened. Our Generation Gap panel, where younger and elder members of the community will engage with one another. But I think one of the most important events is on next week, Thursday.
Yes, on next week, Thursday, we're going to be having a town hall meeting because, I don't know if you may know, but we have some of our Guyanese LGBT family. They'll be coming to Trinidad on the 28th for a case at the Caribbean Court of Justice, where a group of 4 trans women will be contesting the Guyanese vagrancy laws, which prevent them from, it's cross-dressing. So it's again this whole idea of cross-dressing when they actually identify as women, and the laws, they're just identifying, they're just dressing with how they feel. So they come into the court on Thursday to contest that, and in the evening we'll be having a town hall meeting where the topic of conversation is going to be structural violence, poverty, and human rights. So we will be giving out more information about that on our website and our pages.
Which is queertt.com. And you know, Vin, on that note, too many times people would like to pigeonhole these issues, and they treat with them specifically in the areas of sexual identity, or they trivialize it that, you know, people just want to dress a certain way. But from the conversation, you can hear that these issues deal with youth and how people develop and see themselves. It deals with violence against women and how toxic masculinity has affected women and men across generations, which has led to domestic violence and the way that we view these issues in our society. So the LGBT community treats with these issues on a daily basis, and we cross every sector of society, from the middle, upper, lower classes, across all education spheres. We are your designers, we are your artists, we are your musicians, but we're also your doctors and your attorneys and your lecturers, and we are members of your religious congregations. So
talking about toxic masculinity, that's also going to be one of our workshops, headed by Marcus Kisoon from IGDS.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you're also part of our religious congregation, so I'd like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about that. So we would have had a recent meeting among several of our religious bodies and groups. What are your thoughts on that?
So, as I said in another interview yesterday, actually, as a man, I don't believe that those older men represent the young male perspective on life. They are stuck in their own realm, and they would like the status quo to remain as it is. And some of those doctrines that they refer to, again, are the doctrines that have kept women in places of inferiority when looked at from a male perspective. Some of those doctrines have assisted with people maintaining abusive relationships, all in the name of maintaining these virtues. I don't think that they represent my interest, and quite frankly, from someone that was raised in Islam, Hinduism, and Catholicism, because I'm a true Trini, and all of those religions are in my family, we don't preach a message of division and fear and hate. Religion should be used to encourage peace and harmony and love. And I know that this is a topic close to Terry Ann's heart as well.
Well, I just want to point out the fact that this was a group of 6 men, so I was wondering, well, where are the women? Because I feel as though we have a lot of women ministers in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was just like something that caught my attention. But besides that, they gave out so much misinformation, and I think that that is the main issue, that they are creating a lot of fear within the public based on these misconceptions about this LGBT agenda. Of course, we have an agenda. We want to have a good pride. We want to have a parade. We want people to come out. We want allies. So that is our agenda. Our agenda is that we want equal rights. We want the same rights and freedoms that everybody else has, which we deserve to have. We want access to redress when these rights are not given to us. So that's the agenda that we have. And coming out of yesterday's live, what stuck out to me is that the whole point of religion should be to uplift each other, and to, when you see your brother or your sister struggling, to be like, how can I help you? And to serve the community, to serve those around you, and not to create hatred and stigma and discrimination. And it was also saddening that so many of these, some of these ministers actually have portfolios in NGOs and other,
yes, in
even
social work.
Yeah, where they supposed to be reaching out to the community, where they're getting resources, and I'm sure they're being paid to do so, but then they go on TV and spew such hatred and misinformation. So how do LGBT people then feel safe to access these services, thinking that, okay, these people care about me? So
you do not see the religious groups that currently exist in society embracing this movement? You're saying that you're just receiving a lot of hate and
from the ones who are, that's the thing, like they said that 90% of Trinidad and Tobago is against LGBT rights, and I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that's correct. I think that is misinformation, and I don't know where they're getting these statistics from, so maybe they can release this. But I feel as though the people who are speaking on behalf of the religious communities, they don't represent the actual community, because there are lots of there are religious LGBT people to begin with. There are people who identify as gay, LGBT, and are religious, and then there are people who are religious and they support members of the community. So I feel as if they are speaking on behalf of just themselves. They're not speaking on behalf of the actual community.
So can you safely say that there are religious groups and organizations who have embraced this movement?
Yes, I remember there was a pundit that spoke out, and it's ironic because even the Vatican and at one time the Archbishop made the case that the Catholic Church does not support criminalization of homosexuality. So there are subgroups, as Terry-Ann reflected on, that have always supported members of the community, whether it's persons living with HIV and AIDS, whether it's young people who have been displaced by their families, whether it's persons who have been abused and are in need of care and self-help. So yes, we know that Trinidad and Tobago is a loving, accepting society, and that's why we're asking through Pride, for example, that people who want more information, who are, they would like to know exactly what this is all about, to come out and engage with us as members of the community, so that they can show the religious leaders that 90% of Trinidad and Tobago really and truly does not want division and hate and removing people's access to rights. So I think that's the point we're trying to make.
How do you feel about these recent developments? And as she mentioned, some of the successes that the organization has had, or the LGBT community has had. Do you think that you all are achieving some goals that you would have set out in the past?
Definitely. I think that there are less young people harming themselves and taking their own lives.
So mental health.
Mental health,
okay.
Strides have been made. No, we are not there yet. Unfortunately, again, because of some of the misrepresentation and the negative messages in the community, you do have members who feel very badly about themselves, and this is not what we would like to be continued in the community. So I think in the last few years there have been strides. There's still a lot of way to go. I think some of the rhetoric from the political hostings is more positive. Okay. I believe that ministers of government have acknowledged that we do pay their salaries as well, and we are contributing to society's development. And we're inviting them, actually, we're going to be sending out formal invitations to the President, to Prime Minister, and members of the government and opposition to join with us during the month of Pride. And we think it's, again, an opportunity for them to engage with their own burgesses and their own community and see, as we saw outside of Parliament, that it's not just members of the LGBT community, but all of our friends and family and allies, our co-workers, persons in the religious bodies, people from the corporate sector, the arts, entertainment. Everyone, more or less, wants our country to be united, and they support the access for rights, and that's what the main message of Pride is.
Terry-Ann, you mentioned HIV screening as one of the items on the list. Why HIV screening?
Well, I mentioned HIV, but it's not just HIV. So it's the entire health fair. So we're going to be doing so diabetes, blood pressure, and HIV.
Okay, great. And you also mentioned movie nights, and you're going to have a feature on the history of LGBT. How important is this?
Again, it's important that people understand the contribution that LGBT members have made to the society and the world. Some of our icons in Trinidad and Tobago are LGBT. They've received national awards. And we all enjoy clothing, and I don't mean to be stereotypical, but theater, the arts, music. Everyone knows that the best comes from members of the LGBT community. And in Trinidad and Tobago in particular, there has been a long history of members of our community donating their time and efforts to building our country. So one of the theater nights, Mervyn de Gouge, who's one of Trinidad's foremost theater producers, he is hosting an entire evening dedicated to the history of LGBT in the theater movement. One of the nights we have Campbell X, who is a trans member of our community who has won awards internationally for his films. That will be also screened during Pride. So it is a moment, as I said, Verna, for the community, young and old, to really feel proud about themselves, the contributions, that we make positive contributions, and to show people that we are just like them, and we just want access to our rights and to be happy about life and not be hampered in enjoying life.
What are your closing comments at this time?
On that note, I want to encourage all members of the community, especially younger ones, to take a chance. These are safe spaces that we are creating.
Right.
Stand with us, unite for love, come out and participate. And I know that we're going to get support from the allies as well.
Yes, well, you know, LGBT people have always been resilient. We've always been here. We're going to be here. And I think that in terms of Pride 2018, I just want to encourage members of the community as well as allies to come and, as I said before, stamp your name on the nation that belongs to you. You have every right to be here. You have every right to have access to equality, non-discrimination, redress. And this is just a continuation of what has already started. This is a continuation of what our ancestors have done in the past. This is a continuation of today, what has happened this year, and we just want to continue it. So message us, visit queertt.com. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking it. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Wonderful conversation here with Rudolph Hanamji, chairman of the TNT Pride Arts Festival. And of course, we have feminist activist and member of the Pride Parade, Terry Ann Roy. Well, that's our show for today. I can finally say news is up next. I'm Verna Bharat. Have a great holiday.